Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing the best cards of 2020, meaning that the card had to come out in 2020 with one exception. The one exception, which technically it did come out before 2020, but it really wasn't available for, I would say, the average player. That would be the Chaos Emperor, the Dragon of Armageddon, as this was a prize card, pretty much, unless you were willing to go ahead and pay a large sum of money, you weren't getting this card. So I will also consider this card one of the best cards of 2020. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and briefly talk a little bit about them. But again, the card would have to have came out in 2020. And one really cool feature that I want to go ahead and mention, and we are using the new YuGiOh Omega game. And if you guys have not actually played YuGiOh Omega, it is available right now in open beta. And I will link the video down below, as this is a complete new Yu-Gi-Oh game. This is actually my first time uploading a video using this as kind of like our background and our program to go ahead and check out some of these really cool cards. But nonetheless, like I said, Chaos Emperor Dragon had to be included in here because, again, it wasn't really available for most people. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into it, and let's talk about some of the cards. So Chaos Emperor Dragon of the Armageddon was an excellent card because it was the first pendulum card where you could just kind of play it and it was just really, really solid. A lot of people really liked it in Lightsworn because it had the awesome ability to go ahead and pay 1,000 life points, target one of your banished dragon monsters, pop it, and then you could add it back to your hand, and then you could potentially get out this card later down the line too. But it was specifically just used for being able to add a very specific chaos monster, and that's how it really got to be awesome. But it could be used in other things besides Lightsworn. Next up, Lightning Storm. I mean, it is legitimately one of the most insane cards to come out, and it's still a very, very pricey card, especially if you get it in that nice rarity. But yeah, being able to go ahead and destroy all attack person monsters your opponent controls, or destroy all of the spells and traps your opponent controls, is just so good in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's literally Regeki and Feather Duster. Obviously, it has a condition where you can't have any face-up cards, but for the most part, you're going second, you're popping things. Great card. Now, speaking about going, second, this card is great going first or second sometimes. Triple Tactical Talents is really, really great. Being able to go ahead and make it so you can either draw 2 cards, go ahead and snatch steal a monster your opponent has, or check out their entire hand and choose 1 card from it, and then go ahead and shuffle it right into the deck. It has a bunch of banned card effects, and the condition is really not that hard to meet, which is, again, your opponent would just have to go ahead and activate a monster effect during your main phase this turn. Just, again, excellent card. Now, next up, we have Forbidden Droplet. This card definitely saw a rise in popularity due to one of the other cards that we're going to be mentioning, which is Numeron Network and essentially Numeron Calling. Some of these, there's basically 2 cards for the archetype or the combo, but I'm just going to include it one here so where we don't make the video a lot longer than necessary, as there's just, in fact, so many good cards that came out in 2020. But specifically, anything that would lock you out of playing. A lot of people definitely felt this year that Yu-Gi-Oh! Had became, well, not this year, but technically last year in 2020, but also right now, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game has gotten very fast, and you really be needing able to stop things ASAP, and Forbidden Droplet happening to be a quick play really helps out with being able to deal with your opponent's boards. Plus, for some archetypes, you can actually benefit off of having those cards into the graveyard by sending any number of other cards from your hand or field to the graveyard. You can choose that many effect monsters your opponent controls, and then until the end of the turn, their attack is halved and their effects are negated. So sometimes you can use this in a defensive posture when your opponent attacks into you, which sometimes can help out. The more versatility you have for your cards, the better. Now, also Elder and just the Eldritch archetype in general. Basically, it's one of those archetypes that actually had a lot of play. Obviously, with Jet Synchron in the game, it was just really great, especially with O-Line. You had a lot more Link combos. Speaking of Links, there is actually one card that we'll be talking about that actually did get banned this year and also came out this year. Granted, it deserved it. But yeah, Eldritch is an archetype that really showed that you can still play more grind games in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where a lot of archetypes revolved around going as fast as possible, trying to go ahead and make these boards. Now, true, you could do it with Eldritch depending on some of the variants that you were playing. You can definitely get out, Eldritch Golden Lord over and over again for free anyways, basically. But what it really came down to is a different playstyle, and it really just showed you, how much you can win off of Yu-Gi-Oh! With its resource management. But I also wanted to mention really quickly over here with this filter, what made this video really easy, and one thing I want to go ahead and mention is I can filter out the cards from the start of 2020 till the end of time, essentially right here with the 999. But I want to go and show you guys this, YuGiOh Omega has these new features that really enable for us content creators to really go ahead and, make these videos as well. But anyways, nonetheless, yeah, this had to be included on the list. Now, of course, Magician of Souls, this card was super, super pricey. The funniest thing is that, like, the poor Dark Magician players that want to actually use this for actual Dark Magician, I feel so bad because obviously this makes things very difficult when you want to go ahead and build it, and these cards are expensive. But being able to just go ahead and send, the 2 spell and traps from your hand or field to graveyard, and you can draw cards, that's cool and all too. But if it's in your hand, you get to send a level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then you get to special summon this card, or you get to go ahead and, use that Dark Magician effect, right? But nonetheless, still a really great card. There's actually a pretty decent Phantom Knight card that did come out. It's just torn scales. It's just being able to go ahead and send another Phantom Knight's card from your deck to the graveyard. So it's definitely usable. Then if another Phantom Knight's card in your graveyard is banished while it's in your graveyard, you can go and special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves field. Just a decent card overall. This is actually just like here as well. This is placeholder. It just, again, the whole archetype is really nice for being able to go ahead and banish the for the mechanic of banishing the card, and then being able to go ahead and recycle, and basically the Eld Elixir and the Eld Land, like the cards will just kind of recycle each other. It was just really easy for people to get free advantage. Next up, the Chaos Creator. Now this one is definitely going to be some more subjective for some players, because with this card, it's definitely one of those cards where in Chaos, sometimes they open up really good and they make insane boards, and obviously being able to go ahead and target those 3 banished monsters and then special summon one of them can be very, very powerful in YuGiOh, especially since there's not really too many downsides of them, other than you can only use this effect about once per turn. Really great card as well. Just again, Chaos is getting a lot more support in the future too, and speaking of that, like Chaos Space is another excellent card. You guys have probably seen this in lots of different variants, especially those dragon variants. Just a fantastic card to go ahead and just foolish one of them, and then add one of them that can't be normal summon or set from your hand. So great card as well, just for Chaos in general. And then Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. I remember I was playing Heroes for the longest time. This was a really great addition to, of course, the sold decks, but obviously mixing in with any variant that would be like the Infernal Knight. Technically nothing got banned that is in like the Infernal Knight, minus the smoke grenade. That was kind of the reasons why. Any warrior variant deck was still very powerful. Again, when you get to see your opponent's hand, most of those cards have been deleted from YuGiOh, like Trap Dushu and stuff. I mean, although there's still a pointer right now, but being able to go ahead and see your opponent's hand. Now, obviously, you can't do that anymore, but it's still, I would consider a very good card in 2020, just for any variant of warrior decks, because you're gonna play it sold in like just dark, even just like dark warrior variant decks. You would still play this, but obviously in like the Infernal Knights, which Renaud is just an excellent card as well, just a free extra summonable card, and you can be treated as a tuner as well. Next up, this is a more generic card. Titan Cider came out this year, or last year, and it's just fantastic. It's just able to go ahead and it almost reminds me of Breakthrough Skill, where you're able to go ahead and stop something, but this lets you go ahead and target a face-up monster that was special from the extract. You get to change the attack to 0 and negate its effect, and then if your opponent spawns another monster from the extract while it's in the graveyard, you get to reset this card. It's just so fantastic, and you would probably think with this card's effect, I'm just gonna move over here, you can only use the effect of it once per turn, but it doesn't like get banished. Like, it's not like you can only use this effect like once for the rest of the game. You can use it again, which I think is just so great. But again, remember, YuGiOh has definitely evolved in terms of the game state, how fast things have gotten. But speaking of things going very fast, Neuron Calling and the Neuron Network being able to go ahead and S0 lock your opponent out, or just going for the Infinitrack card that just is a huge giant threat for anyone to deal with. For some decks, just like use some of that card, is game over anyways. But yeah, the Numerons just in general, specifically the calling over there, just getting all those monsters out, and it really opens up the doors for some insane plays for a lot of other random stuff that normally just didn't see play to come into the game. So definitely a great card. Speaking of great cards, dealing with another great card, I mean, come on, of course we had to include Dragoon in here, but this is one of the awesome cards that just doesn't target, and it's just excellent to get rid of any problematic card in the game. Next up, this card, I still think it's a really insanely good card and definitely has a lot of potential. There's actually two Arch Nemesis cards, but I'm just going to include this one over here. So Shadows over here has the awesome ability to go ahead and summon itself by banishing 3 monsters with different types. And then you get to go ahead and declare monster type, destroy all monsters on the field with that type, and then until the end of the next turn, neither player can summon monsters. And actually, I'm gonna have to move the card over here to actually like zoom in up on the effect over here, which is really cool. I can actually do this if you just hold down. I know there's just so many effects with this. I'll have to get used to this application with it. So it destroys all of the types, and then they can't summon it. So it basically like ruins someone if they're like just playing one type of a thing. But normally what they would do is probably try to negate this card from coming out in the first place. But speaking of negation, the Dogmatica is all about like an anti-meta archetype, I would say. Even though you can splash this into a meta archetype and you could still make it very viable. I'd say like Fleur-de-Lis, the Your Servant, the Excelsia. Just fantastic cards, just to go ahead and be able to have that effect where you're able to go ahead and send stuff from your extra deck, which really can help out some other archetypes kind of get started and, having that card in the graveyard. And just overall, the mechanic of the Dogmatica, I think, is cool indeed. But another mechanic I really liked, now, if you guys remember towards the beginning of last year, when we had 3 copies of Mali, a lot of people were attacking this in, specifically just the red and blue Nemesis, Flag, and Umbrella. But what you're able to do is basically recycle Mali over and over and over again, and you would make boards that were just so insane to, like, it was just Appaloosa 4 negates, and then you could follow up with like a Dark Law or anything else. It was just really, really nasty to go ahead and deal with. So these were just excellent cards. I liked them a lot. I know, again, for some people, they might not be the best in the current state because of Mali being hit, but when Mali was at 3, you best believe people were using this. And there was also, if you guys remember, a lot of people were playing more Synchros back when we had multiple Librarian as well. But I just like these cards overall a lot. But I still think that these cards can definitely see a lot of play in the future. It depends on, of course, what archetypes come out that can recycle, kind of like a Mali effect. But next up, Gears to the Orcus Mech Knight. I would really say this is one of the better cards that has came out. Obviously, making Orcus still like a little bit more viable. Obviously, with the newer changes, a lot of people got excited about Orcus, but I just really haven't seen them. But I still would consider this one of the best cards that came out in 2020, no doubt. Next up, Alpha, the Master of Beasts. This card is excellent as well, just because it had let you summon it almost like a kind of like a Pinkatrops over there, depending on the deck that you're playing, obviously. But this is still a fantastic card overall. It's just you're able to go ahead and just have a really easy summon condition, and then you can go ahead and like bounce back a bunch of cards. And then we also have a Ghost Mourner. It's kind of like a little bit of a negation here, and then also you can potentially make your opponent take some burn damage. So that's kind of cool as well. A lot of people were saying this is like the new, better version of Valor, and depending on the circumstance or the deck that you're playing, you can benefit off of either one of these quite well. But they almost have kind of the same effects where you're going to negate the effects. That's the most important part, really. Also, Emancipator. I mean, obviously, we're not going to include every single one of them, but like Researcher would probably be one of the better ones. There's some good cards in the extra deck as well, but Researcher over here, probably one of the more expensive ones when it like first came out too, and sought after. But being able to just go ahead and excavate a bunch of cards, and it made Quacky see play, which is so funny because that archetype, unless you're talking about Duel Links, Quacky just weren't like a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously Quacky didn't come out this year, but they just legitimately didn't see any competitive play. But Emancipator, another archetype that's open up with the same board, GG no Reese. Then we have the Animadorned Archosaur over here, which is another fantastic card for Dinos. Really made them way, 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 way more consistent. Fantastic little guy over here as well, being able to go ahead and add the Evo Pill, and on top of that, pop one of them. Just a great card. Plus, you can 1-for-1 it too if you happen to get your plays negated. I liked running 1-for-1 in Dinos because of this card. And then next up, we have Drytrons. It doesn't really matter which one. Just all of them basically use as stepping stones. I really feel like this is an archetype that a lot of people will definitely be on the lookout for, because they have, again, just the ability to spam board pretty hard. And lastly, again, I know Chaos Emperor. I just like this card a lot. But yeah, I know this one. I just want to mention again. It came out earlier than last year, but it was too expensive. It really just came out in 2020. But as far as the extra deck, guys, we do have some really great cards as well. Red Dark Dragon, probably one of those OP cards of all time. I mean, a lot of people want to see this card completely banned or hit on the ban list. I feel like if it's at 1, it doesn't really matter. It's still absolutely amazing. But I mean, unless you're playing like the builds with some extravagance, do you really run 3 in the extra deck? I mean, some people just build their deck all about get out Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. You make this card and people would just quit. They would type in chat, get super salty. I remember when this card first came out, in terms of like, it was just, you know, announced. When it was in the game, people would host games all the time. No Dark Dragoon. A fantastic card though. Obviously, that's like, this is probably, if I was to make the list of the best card in 2020, I just picked this card. This card is so easy to get out with, of course, this card, which is another one of the best cards. This card actually has another effect most people don't know, but you can still copy other great fusion cards. But pretty much it's just used for this guy, and that's why he's pretty much here. Then there's Chaos Ruler, the chaotic magical dragon over here. This card just, again, another one of those excellent cards for any chaos. Again, chaos is going to be looking pretty good next upcoming few sets coming out. Chaos is still getting a lot of support, so we'll have to wait and see where it goes, but this is just a fantastic card. It made chaos great again. Then we have Virtual World. This archetype is still doing relatively good in some online tournaments as well, because keep in mind, during everything going on, it's kind of hard to have those physical tournaments, but Virtual World still definitely a honorable mention over here. Like, again, if it's the whole archetype, I'm not going to include every single one of the cards, but Virtual World just in general, great. And then Union Carry, being able to go ahead and have that awesome ability to go ahead and equip those cards, you know, getting the extra 1,000 attack, right? No, it's basically just used for that effect. That's another great honorable mention. And speaking of honorable mention, you couldn't make a best cards that came out in 2020 without Hockey Firebrax. Another one of those cards that a lot of people really wanted to go ahead and go away. I mean, it really made Synchro just so OP, you know, in general, and obviously the effect just to even use it as stepping stones, not even to go for Synchros. It's just so dang powerful, and you know, being as a quick effect as well. Very good stuff indeed. Next up, we have the Prank Kids Meow Moo over here. It lets Prank Kids off one card just combo up and have insane consistencies. It's one of those archetypes where, like, if a good player is playing it, they will definitely do some work with it. Next up, Axis Code Talker. It's just able to go ahead and start popping things, and then on top of that, it has that awesome ability where it's like your opponent can't even, your opponent can't activate cards or effect in response to this card's activation. So it just pops everything. This card coming out is OTK time, man. And then speaking of OTK time, this card is just really annoying for certain archetypes to deal with, especially if you establish a large board. Being able to go ahead and just make it really easy in like Zoo, right? Like Zodiacs. Being able to go ahead, if another card you control is destroyed by battle or by opponent's card effect, you can attach one card from your hand or deck or extra deck to this card as material, but it's usually main for the other effect, where the quick effect detach 2 materials and then just send them all, just get rid of everything. This card is like really OP as well. I mean, that's the point of it. And then obviously we have to mention Aurora Dawn. Obviously it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still like a really good card that did come out in 2020 as well. Just a fantastic card. But one of the most insane cards, Link Cross, that enabled so many decks to go and make these boards are just like unbreakable. Definitely Link Cross. I mean, it got banned this year and came out this year. It's the only one that actually got you know, banned. Obviously, again, some other things got changed on the ban list, like I mentioned before. The Smoke Grenade was also banned, and that's due to some of the other cards that came out, like, you know, this year. But this card, straight up rip real fast, man. But anyways, next up, I also wanted to give a good shout out to Relinquish Anima. It's one of the cards that, like, it comes out, you know, randomly, and it is one of the best cards because it really makes your opponent think about the zones in the game. And sometimes when they don't pay attention, or like, you know, you're playing online and they don't have like the thing where they actually manually place it. The Relinquish Anima, this card can win games, definitely. Like, don't sleep on this card. It is definitely really good. And next up, the Ravenous Croco Dragon. I really feel like this is one of the better synchros that came out this year. I mean, honestly, or I keep on saying this year, sorry, 2021. Last year, 2020, this card came out. I like this card because you can just potentially draw a bunch of cards, but I also feel like there wasn't really any great, amazing synchros that came out this year, other than Chaos Ruler. Like I said, I included this one because it's just like the Virtual World. This card's good. It's kind of more conditional to like that archetype, but for the most part, like, this is probably one of the better synchros that we got. We need some better synchros, so hopefully 2021 will be much better with synchros. In fact, there are going to be new synchros coming out for like the junk archetype as well that I sent it, probably made a video on a while back, but that will definitely be something to be on the lookout for. But I also want to go ahead and mention, guys, we will also be covering in the near future of some of the worst cards and archetypes that did come out in 2020 for some memes. And if you guys do want to see that and you are new here, make sure you guys are subscribed with the bell notification on so you don't miss out on that. But speaking about things that might have been missed out on, if you guys felt like I missed out on any other really amazing cards that came out in 2020 that might see some play in the future, definitely let me know in the comment section below. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a great one. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one, and I'm signing out. Peace.